come on, come on, come on. I know you're sleeping now. You gotta wake up some more, yeah? Okay, let's go. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. So much. I said they lie. The people fool us, oh. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not go. I said we tired with their lies. We tired with their promises that led us to a lot of damages. We tired with that speech they preach indeed, and now unique they deceive us. The thing we saw, it frustrate us. So why did you lie? Why did you steal? Why did you allow the citizens to be? You see, we just tell you that why we voted you. But you fool us, you screw us, you use us and later on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. They lie. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us, oh. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not to corrupt. No one to trust. My people, no one to hope on. Nobody. My hope that I have been broken. I'm telling you, brother. So where are the schools? Where are the roads? Where are the jobs that they say they could afford? But they're too selfish. The people tired with their rhetoric. People tired, they tired. You see the reason why we ask why the government betray. They have enough of time, but yeah, then stay they delay. People suffer. No work for people crying for hunger. Look at. Your vision and your mission, your intention to the nation, they poor. You got nothing to show. Nothing. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. They lie. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us, oh. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not go for us. We tired with their promises that led us to a lot of damages. We tired with that speech they preach indeed, and now unique they deceive us. The thing we saw, it frustrate us. So why did you lie? Why did you steal? Why did you allow the citizens to be? You see, we just tell you that why we voted you. But you fool us. You screw us, you use us and later on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. They lie. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie.
To us, they fool us, they betray us, all kind of thing, right? That's the kind of government we have. Well, gentlemen, Happy New Year.
Many happy return.
Mobile, you're on mute. Sound check. Well, mobile not retired. We ain't started yet. But Happy New Year to you, Jonathan. Mobile, Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year. Even though Is that New Year's in Liberia? Yeah. So
No,
happy New
it
Year.
actually reached here, but we just
No, I
project.
mean if you're in China, they in New Year. So
Oh,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
They,
The people in Australia are in New Year. The people in Japan are
yes,
in New Year.
yes. Other parts of the
So
world they dropped the ball already, but
yeah,
hopefully we will drop our ball sometime soon. But I'm
yeah,
on the East Coast. You on the West Coast, right, Jonathan?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the West Coast.
Yeah. And
It is
Boba's on the
around 3:14 p.m. here in the afternoon.
right. So, gentlemen, um, this has been kind of long year. So let's share with the people some personal stuff. What would you say? What your year has been like, and your accomplishments or key events that happened for you.
Uh, I would like to begin by saying that I'm quite grateful to God. You know,
New Year to you.
have a turbulent year 2022, especially beginning judging from the 2020 COVID that created huge inconvenience for a lot of Liberians. You know, despite the economic situation of our country, but I'm grateful to God that against all, we survived it in good health. And along the way, we lost some of our loved ones, friends. But again, that's the calling of God. I mean, that's the will of God. It happens. But I feel quite humble and quite well as the 2022 comes to an end. As an individual, as a Liberian, I'm hopeful, I'm grateful that along the troubled lines of missteps, at least our people have kept their focus and they know exactly what 2023 means for them and the appropriate action that is given to them and will be exercised come October. That is the key part of it as a Liberian that I hope to see Liberians and making that decision that will redeem her image, that will redeem the country, and I will put her back among committees of nations where trust, confidence will be restored in our system, and hope for other nations. That is my prospect for 2023.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, let's hear from you.
Well, where do I start from? I mean, the beginning of the year was sort of like in the eyes of many Liberians, whether in the opposition or the government, the last remaining opportunity for our government to do things differently and try to lead differently. Understand that we had come from the coronavirus in 2020, went to 2021. I mean, people were like, the government is going to heal from the huge economic setbacks, that came as a result of the whole COVID. And then 2021 came and passed, not much changed. 2022 was like an opportunity to reset the course and do things differently. I mean, people expected a lot of radical changes in the governance of our country and the draft on which we were going as a country and people. Unfortunately, from my vantage point, not a lot changed. Very few, I mean, very minimal, if anything, changed. Were among the things that changed. We still saw the same trend of lack of leadership, lack of care, I mean, the carelessness on the part of our president, and irresponsibility with how he handled the Liberian presidency and his inability to lead the country and perform according to the expectations of the people that voted for him and the rest of the Liberian people. So coming to the middle of the year, around June, we went to elections in Lofa. Obviously, the government was fortunate to have stole that one again. Few months, few days later, the U.S. government, our most important international partner, sanctioned three of the key government officials and loyalists of Mr. Weah. Uh, he made an announcement after huge pressure from both Liberians in the country and our international partners to prosecute the guys and ensure they were investigated. I mean, he did not fulfill that. So he lost that opportunity. He has done nothing up to today. So those guys are still walking free in the city. He left the country for 48 days. I mean, instead of like we are improving, our people have gotten poorer. They are struggling more. The things they expected to change have just gotten worse. The economy has gone further down the drain. I mean, there was gas shortages, by the way. I'm not say shortage because it happened more than once. Then there were rice shortages again. So I mean, our most staple food, by the way, if our government cannot even ensure the availability of our staple food on the market, I mean, that tells you that for me encapsulates the lack of seriousness on the part of this government and the incompetence of the Georgia led government. So, I mean, that's just a broad view of everything. I hope we can be able to navigate into these things as the time goes by. But it's good to be here and to see the old man Isaac shining as usual. And Dolakeh
Yeah.
is good connecting with you and to our listeners. Let's have an interactive discussion today.
Right. So yeah, thank you guys for sharing your thoughts. For me, 2022 came in looking good. You know, I'm optimistic about the stuff we're doing with regards to promoting the ANC, CPP, and Mr. Communist effort. Um, I have my situation with the book, a co-author. My life was threatened. I tried to get out of town in a relaxed environment. Unfortunately, um, there was a hit put on me. My life could have been lost. But again, I thank the Liberian people, especially those who were on social media, those who were calling different people in high places to demand that I be safe and I'm not harmed. And it so happened I wasn't. And it seemed like the likely situation to do to avoid any future conflict once that whole coming back to Monrovia happened was to leave the country. I left the country the same day, and they even tried to hold my passport at the airport that day, but that was up to them because I was already um, pushed through by immigration, and unfortunately the attempts, whatever it was, were not successful. So just looking forward now to coming back to starting 2023 in a positive way in the country. But at a high level, 2022 was a very tough year for Liberians. A lot of the trash that had been occurring, the corruption, the negativity, the um, or I should say bad governance, the lack of rule of law, all kind of came to a head in 2022 with the international community really coming down hard, especially the United States, with the sanctions, exposing some of the stuff that was happening. That's really just the tip of the iceberg. Um, the National Elections Commission preparing for a very serious 2023 in terms of our general and presidential elections has performed poorly. They have not stood up to the task. It seemed like personal interests were involved in the selection or of the biometric, and that's something that they're not even supposed to do. But unfortunately, there's hardly any willpower in government or people who want to apply the rule of law or the mandate of different or institutions in government to what they're supposed to do and stick with that. So, in my mind, in the National Identification Registry law, the NRR should actually be the one implementing biometrics across the country, and then institutions that need that identification information can use it. Unfortunately, that's not the case because we don't really have a government that follows its own rule of law. So we have the National Elections Commission playing around with biometrics and not really having a set, defined, objective process to select who should do our biometrics. Then on the other hand, we have lists. Unfortunately, the whole census process um, has been a fiasco. Um, Today or this past week, they're spending on the table trying to manipulate census data in the different service centers across the country um, because they never really counted the people. They do preliminary work before the census where they go and check all the different households and stuff like that, and to a broad estimate of what the population. And now the census, they go into getting detailed information, the demographics of the people, the like exact household style, the jobs, and all so much information that really carries forward in terms of our development efforts, our analysis of our country, and setting up, programs and policies and everything to move the country for the next 10 years. And Listis has really failed in that regard. They are right now just fudging information, just taking every, let's say if I'm an enumerator and I go to a certain place and I bring in the data for this particular area that I'm assigned to, and it's supposed to be about, let's say, 100 houses, but I only capture 15 or 20. Now they're going in there and trying to populate, putting another 50 or 60 households, which flaws the data, because household, you can have a structure, a building, and you can have multiple households in that building. So if they went to a building and they said only two households were there, and they need to beef up, because initially when they did the estimates and stuff, um, it was like, let's say, 100 households. So they would try to push up and add more to each of the different structures, and that is very flawed. It's not giving us a true picture of what our population is. So along the way, this government has failed. We are just hoping that 2023 they can rebound in terms of the things that are necessary for good governance. They can start to do the civic and voter education. They can start to ensure that there's a clear timeline with regards to the elections, and really let us know, especially when they will complete this. As flawed as the census is, um, if I had a choice, I would go to court to protest the census and for them to prove that they actually did the census as legitimately within the time frame as they were supposed to do it, and not the fudging of data that they're doing now. So
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
one second, let me just finish. It's an interesting thing going into
Yeah.
next year where the expectation again is huge for Liberians. It's a decision year. And for me, I've been saying the Liberian people have to decide. You have to look at where you were in 2018, January, to where you are today. How much has your life progressed? Then you got to look at the next 6 years and see who among those candidates that are out there today can actually make your life better, make your children's lives better, improve the conditions of the country, and all the things that we talk about that we say we need, better healthcare, better education, better jobs, better food, better nutrition, food security, XYZ. Let's see who can provide that and let the Liberian people make that decision. So that's my thoughts, and I really look forward to a positive year for Liberians. I really wish them the best, but we know the challenges they face, we know how resilient they are, and we'll discuss some of that as we go along. Jonathan?
Yes, I want to play, though I'm a partner like you are and Kessely is, but I want to play the role I'll be posting the question so that I got a thought along the way. And you struck a very cardinal point, and that point is the leges. So we have the leges, we have which is the censor, we have the National Elections Commission and its biometric process with ICAM and other institutions with the PPCC. We have the issue of the sanction and too many different human development issues that we can talk about. But I want to begin with the leges because people think that being in opposition or opposition trying to speak about these things, it make people to appear like we are so much against the government. But I see censor, and like many of us educated people know, censor is a development tool that is used to define different sectors and the hiccups that they are facing and how to, unblock those hiccups and able environment for the country. And so G. Alex Williams came out with startling revelations. We saw the procedure he would not follow. I've talked to people in Monrovia, and someone would tell me that their house were locked up, and they were told that people came to do enumeration. They didn't see them, and their neighbor were able to give them data. I mean, how do you give the name of the person whom is locked? So I want between you and I will start with you, Ava, because you raised it, and I come back to KESSELLY, who can further expand on it. Knowing that this sensor have to track household. For example, you say 10-bedroom house. 10-bedroom house could mean you either have 10 family heads living in it, or more than 10 family heads living in it, for instance. And you need to track that number. You need to know whether that home is close to a school for the hinterlanders, whether it's close to a hospital, and whether those hospitals are accessible for physically challenged people, because it's one of the indicators that were just included for censor given what global phenomenon had called for. So among the too many different things, can you talk to us a little? Why would it hide us? What would this say? Why would this censor hide us if our enumeration are not matching to global standard after all of the investment? What height will we face as a country?
Well, the first thing, we won't really know who's where. From 2008 to this point, we not have understood the migration, the actual birth rates of people. We do have the birth and the Bureau of Statistics, I believe, with birth and death, but we don't know that those things are really recorded, because I can remember in 2020, they will come to certain areas and say, "Oh, we come in provide, birth certificate for all the people who have children this year. You come and can bring the children for all the recorded birth certificates, and you're not getting the real actual information. You're not getting it real time. So with this census process, where we are not really detailed, we are not following the process, and I really wish Alex Williams would come on, right? Because Alex is probably the best Liberian position today, visibly known, who truly understands the process. He set up the pre-census process. And I even saw a post from some Liberian citizens that, oh, the young children who did it the first time, they can't do it again. The people who doing it, they know what they're doing. So that first one was successful. And Alex was able to set up a system, introduce this new technology that they're using today, right? And unfortunately, because of all the situations around corruption, the prioritization of self-gain, self-aggrandizement, and greed over the best interests of the Liberian people is what affected this whole process, and we are not able to actually get the benefit of the professionalism of somebody like Alex to be involved. So I will bring Alex on, for him to share some insight on um, where the census is right now, because although he may not be in Liberia, he's knowledgeable about what's going on. So, Alex, welcome to the show.
Good to join the show and maybe say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone
So,
who's following us wherever they are. And I'm grateful to always share the platform with great people like you, Mr. TUKPAH, and the rest of the other folks. And so I'm open to talking the talk as usual, all geared toward the forward march of our country It's betterment and improvement. So happy to join you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, Jonathan, you just asked me a very good question. You can re-ask that question to Alex, where he will
Yeah,
add actual professional expertise, to the answer.
I saw Jonathan actually nodding his head when I was coming on. He said, "Yeah, this guy, I'm going to ask him a lot of questions."
yeah. No, Alex, first let me say thank you. Look, until we appreciate education, innovation, and creativity in our country, we are far away from reaching our height. And I'd like to say thank you for everything you did for our country and keep doing for our country by explaining to the bare minimum how the ordinary Omar in the streets selling can understand what it means to be counted and what effects it will have on our economy and our development agenda. So it is important. So I say welcome again. I will I will restate the question what I was asking about, but I also like to say people like you being in the system is quite helpful for us today. We have LBDR, somebody, Alex Cummings came to like America, got degree, when he served as analyst, but unfortunately he didn't become CEO or president. And somebody when he served as president of LBDR with bad credential, false credential. So it is just important that when we see people like you, we should help you few among our population. But I was saying that leges and sensor in particular, I did some sensor work, but my work now not kind of sophisticated way did my boy. So I won't boast on it. But that was then in 2008 we had that Liberty, you know, head in that process. Sensor is a development tool from my understanding, which is an indicator or yardstick meant to be used as a measure against what are the hiccups, what are the measures needed to be put in place to correct those hiccups in terms of infant mortality, death rate, birth rate, migration, or development in terms of school, how far the school is it from the population, the hospital. And now I listened to one of the explanation. I learned that you people have captured, the this physically disadvantage, according to one of the explanation that I listened to. So I want to ask you, if this sensor that will have all those and all the voodoo badoos, I mean inconsistency, if it didn't go well, in accordance with international standard, what would be the negative effect and to what extent it will hurt us as a country? That's what I wanted to know, and I just invited you. I hope you can enlighten us on the further.
All right, thank you. And first, let me say my thanks and appreciation to Dr. T. Edward Liberty, the founding father of LISIS, the first Director General, a man who understands the importance and significance of official statistics, who to a greater extent improve and develop and lay the foundation for official statistics in Liberia. As a matter of fact, it was while he was at the Ministry of Planning and Development, he assisted the crafting of the bill that later resulted into an act for the establishment of the Liberian Institute of Statistics and Geoinformation Services. So he's a walking encyclopedia of Liberia official statistical landscape, and I want to pay homage to him before even proceeding. With regards to the census, to be specific, the census, like you said, is one of the very essential development tools that must be given maximum attention. In fact, when you read Revision 3 of the Principles and Recommendations for Population and Housing Censuses from the UN, it says that census is that activity during the time of peace in any country, which that is the biggest undertaking that any government can have. Because census is so big that we go to every home in every corner of the country, as opposed to any other activity in the country. Having said that, Liberia's census is a failure, a massive failure. It's a flop. And I am so sad that all of the professional advice we provided to assist in ensuring that the right thing is done wasn't heeded to. And as we stand, the country stands to lose everything. And I mean everything. So for the next 10 years, we should have utilized the census data for development planning, whether it is for schools, whether it is for building hospital, whether it is for identifying the construction of hand pumps or pit latrines, whether it's the issue ever. And like you said, also for the very first time in Liberia, we integrated the Washington Group of Question on Disability. And so not only, you know, many people think that when we talk about census, it's just knowing the number of people in the country. I can tell you for a fact, if census and enumeration was just about knowing the number of people in the country, we probably would not have needed the main enumeration phase of the census. Because prior to the main enumeration phase, you know, census have three phases: the pre-enumeration, enumeration, and post-enumeration. So prior to the enumeration phase of the census, in the pre-enumeration phase, we do what we call the National Geographic Planning Exercise. And for Liberia, for the very first time in the history of Liberia, it was fully digitized, where we went to each houses and have GPS coordinate of the various structures of building and collected the household head names and the number of occupants in each of those households. So and we divided the country into smaller areas for counting, which we call enumeration areas. And so before even the main counting begins, just from that data, you can know exactly the kind of population you have in your country. And we could say safely from that data, Liberia population is in 6 million. Liberia population is between 6.2 million and not more than 6.5 million. Any activity or census, whatever you conduct in Liberia, with getting such a population, that would be totally erroneous. And if you look at page 16 of the 2008 National Population and Housing Census Final Report, page 16 of that final report, you can find it on Google, you will see that the mapping population was synonymous to the main enumeration population with a marginal difference of, I think, about 126,000 people. So the mapping exercise population always corroborate to a larger extent the correlation between the main population during the enumeration phase and the mapping exercise are always strong, and I'm making reference to that. When you also look at the pilot census that we did, because before the main census, you do what we call the pilot census or the pretest, where you test the instrument and the methodology of the census and all of the logistical arrangement. From that data also, we know for a fact that the mapping data and the pretest data correlated strongly, and that the population is in 6 million. Not only that we want to know the number of the population, but we also want to know the characteristics of the population, not necessarily just the size of the population. When we say the characteristics of the population, we want to know, for instance, there are how many Fura people, there are how many Nigerians, there are how many people of the Kru ethnic background, there are how many people of Gopo ethnic background, Basodian. We want to know this. This is the characteristics of the population. We want to know the religious diversity of the population. How many persons are Christian? How many persons are Muslim? Because mind you, even the Muslim community and the Christian community need these kinds of data for plenty of churches and mosques. So the census data, there are multifaceted stakeholders that benefit from quality census data. Not only that we want to know the religious characteristics of the population, we also want to know the structure of the population. When we say the structure of the population, we want to know how many males, how many females, what the age range of these people are. We want to know also the poverty level and the literacy level of the people. So these are things you want to know. And where is the poorest of the poor? These things align with the SDGs. And most of the indicators that we calculate from the census are strongly and 100% having a direct relationship with the SDGs indicator in most instances. And so if you conduct a census like in the case of Liberia today, where if you recall in 2008, you participated in the census lasted for, the enumeration exercise lasted for only 10 days. It was from March 21st to March 30th, 2008, 10 days. Because all around the world, when you do a de facto census, like in the sub-Saharan region, day one, which is the day people stay home, you are supposed to capture not less than 50% of the population, because that's why the people are staying home and are stationary. The rest of the other days is basically like callbacks and things like that. Now, you can imagine if we had an analog system in 2008 where we're using pen and paper or pencil and paper to calculate the population, and it took us just 10 days. Now we have upgraded to a digital system utilizing tablets, and it is taking almost 2 months. That is a problem, because the digital system is expected to be faster and robust. In fact, that's the even reason why we optimize the system to a digital system. But I'm not surprised, because I was just reading one course that is being taught by the World Bank. And one of what I learned is that having digital system is good. But if the human beings who are supposed to operate those digital systems are insincere and wants to undermine the process, the digital system at times become even more dangerous. And we see it clearly in the case of the census. We see it, for example, at the passport center in Liberia. We see it, for example, other places where the system is digital and supposed to be robust. But people, every time you go there, we say the system is down because somebody want to get $5 and $10 and things like that. So they slow those processes. And that is why we have the census today. So people are now sitting in rooms, putting numbers together to give it to Liberian people as population of the country.
Well, just elaborate on that again. When you say people are sitting in rooms, what does that mean? So our people can understand.
So
sitting at table before, but you say rooms now. So I just want you to put it into context so they understand exactly what's happening.
So what has happened is that the actual counting of the population sometime a week ago ended, according to religious folks. But when the population counting ended, or enumeration exercise, when they went to check the database, after everybody have said they have finished their work and things, they realized that the household listing was 5.5 million, and the actual enumeration was 4.4 million. That's a difference of 1.1 million.
Yes.
Approximately, or maybe almost 20% difference. That's a huge margin. So they just decided that this is going to be an embarrassment, because you cannot You cannot go to the Liberian people and say the population of Liberia is 4.4 million. Nobody gonna listen to you. As a matter of fact, when we conducted the 2016 Household Income and Expenditure Survey, which is an annual survey, if you look at the Household Income and Expenditure Survey abstract report, the population of Liberia on page 5 is estimated as 4.4 million in 2016. And that's just a survey estimation. Right. We call that one extrapolation of the population beyond census period. Now, if we are having such an amount in 2016, obviously the legislators know they cannot go and publish a result and say the population of Liberia is 4.4.
No way. So
the next question was, what can we do? For instance, there is Maryland County. The population in 2008 for Maryland County and the population of Maryland County in 2022 census almost 14 years plus. That population only increased by 3,000. Only increased by 3,000 when they got through with the result. In Maryland in 2008, I want to be specific. In Maryland in 2008, the population was 135,938 persons. In 2008 census. In 2022, approximately 14 years after, Maryland population only grew by 3,000 in the tune of 138,000.
Even
obviously, there's some people can say nobody's stupid here. So obviously, the folks knew that they cannot publish such a result. While you have a place like Grand Coup that had a population of 57,000 in 2008, the population of Grand Coup tripled after the contest. Now, how is it that the population of Grand Coup can triple that has no pull factor, meaning that there is no businesses, there's no company, no major investment in Grand Coup that will attract people to go there to live, but the population in Maryland that has plantation and other things can do no damage. So you cannot give such result because these are part of what we do to analyze population or statistical data, which we call demographic analysis of the population data. We will do these things. We will do justice to whatever numbers they will put out, and they know that.
Doing stuff that I can floor the count in terms of the tribal counts, right?
Yes, you know that is something in census we call, there's something in census called gerrymandering. Gerrymandering in census is where you inflate the population of a particular constituent for political reason.
Exactly.
You know, everybody wants to please the president. So you get the president.
I don't want to cut you up, but I want you to expand on that play before KESSELLY comes in. You mentioned before that supervisor in area of less populated county were increased as compared to areas of more populated counties. And you mentioned it on Spoon that, say, Grand Coup, Sando, that had less population, had more supervisor. And the signal did not mean well for the outcome of the census because it needed to be matched against where you have more population to have more supervisor or more enumerator. Could you, expand on it with your terminology you used concerning inflating the population
gerrymandering
for political gerrymandering? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's all geared to what I was saying. You have the president coming from Grand Coup. Many people want to please the president by all means. So you have a place like Maryland that will be having a population increase by only 3,000. But then you will have Grand Coup that will triple. And so they know they cannot put these numbers out because some of us have these numbers. As a matter of, I'm the former Deputy Director General for Statistics and Data Processing. I have the entire census data in terms of the mapping exercise per enumeration area. I have those numbers. I have the shapes file for each of those EA and counties. And we will do an analysis. We'll overlay these shapes file and other things. We'll do an analysis. And people know they cannot easily come and just put numbers out. So what are they now doing? So if, for example, in Bonny County, when we did the household listing exercise during the mapping phase of the census, the estimated population of Bonny County is around 126,473 persons. That is constituting approximately 1.97% of the total population of Liberia. In 2008, Bonny County population was 84,119. Now, what they did is that after the counting of the census, I will give you a typical example of River G. The population of River G is around 133,650 persons from the mapping exercise that ended last year. In fact, this year, March.
Well, how much you say it was?
The population of River G as per the mapping exercise that was done,
right,
is 133,650.
And for people who don't know,
the number of households within River G was 29,697. The average household size in River G from the mapping exercise was 4.50. And the average household size for River G from the pre-test that we did was 4.6. So you see it is strongly correlated. Now, after they went and counted, for example, in River G population was around 30-some more thousand. That is almost 100,000 difference. Obviously, you'll not go to River G County Senator and represent and say the population is around 30-some more thousand. Nobody's going to listen to you. So what they are doing is 7 counties. As we speak, they have dispatched people to the various county service centers where religious offices are. And these people are sitting in one room and they are adding numbers to each of the households and each of the structures to get closer to the number we had during the mapping exercise. That is what they are doing. So they will send, for example, 10 persons, maybe John, Peter, Paul, and whoever. John Peter will be assigned to maybe 50 EAs out of maybe 2,000 EAs or 150 EAs or whatever. So he goes to EA number 1. He goes to the household listing. Because each of the structure has a GPS coordinate. And for you to get a GPS coordinate, you have to go back to those structures, and they don't want to go back to those structures to do recount of the population. So what they do is that you go to the household listing of a particular structure. If, for example, there were 2 households, you add another household on the household listing. When you add another household on the household listing, you give it a population. For example, you say, let me give a typical example. We are in a particular house. There are 4 rooms. Everybody in each of those rooms are responsible for themselves. They feed themselves and their children. They are considered as a household. So you have 4 also in that one house, for example. Right. During the actual counting, people went and maybe counted only 1 household out of the 4 households. So they know they have the mapping data already that says there are 4 households in that structure. So what they are going to do, they will sit there at the office and add 3 more households. and put whatever number they want to put there on the household listing.
Yep.
Because when they do that, then it will reflect and corroborate with the GPS coordinate for that structure. So when you do it on the household listing and finish, then you go now to the main question here and start answering the various questions for the household. We're asking those people, and we all know who those people are. You just put anybody that comes into your head and put any amount of human being you want to come. So those are what they are doing right now. But they forget to understand that one of the uniqueness of the introduction of the CAPI process that I personally introduced into the census, transitioning the census from PAPI to CAPI, is that we have something called paradata.
Can you
automatically
explain CAPI to PAPI so people can understand it?
PAPI is pen and paper.
Yes.
And CAPI is computer assisted personal interviewing.
Right.
So pen and paper, obviously, you get an enumerator, you give me a sheet with a questionnaire with some of questions, and it goes out to the interview and go to the respondent, ask them questions, fill it out, and send it back to the head office and things like that, and put it into the computer. That's CAPI. CAPI, the man's going into the field to ask the man using a tablet or a smartphone or whatever. The questionnaire is digital on the tablet or smartphone. He asks those questions. Automatically, he's finished. Even before he finishes, it is already running at the background. He gets connected to an internet. He uploads or synchronizes the data to the server. It is being received in real time and it is being analyzed. You know, so what they are doing right now, and they forget to understand, is that that system is hard and very complex to cheat, because the system shows the date, the time, the hour, the minute, everything.
There's a timestamp
when you are doing the addition. If you send that particular questionnaire to the server, it shows when it enters the server. That questionnaire also shows the tone of the enumerator, how you are asking the question, the flow. Those are all of the things we analyze beyond the actual metadata or real data. We analyze all those things to improve quality of censuses and surveys. And they have forgotten and they don't understand, because Lawrence George, for example, who is now heading the place, has no understanding and background in statistics. So he doesn't even know what they are doing. So they have a Nigerian there now who is a so-called chief census technical advisor, who have given the instruction to go and do these things because they have to save face. Sadly, we have now videos. Not only videos, we have pictures. Not only pictures, we have attendance sheets of these people who are in the various county service centers who are doing these things. And I'll share some of them with Mr. TUKPAH. You know, so we will play these things in subsequent time. In the coming week, we will do justice to the Liberian people, to expose these people, and to tell them exactly what is happening to the census data. Few days ago, the Vice President was on Spoon Show, specifically on December 24th, the eve of Christmas. And one of what she said was that the census result, preliminary results, was going to be out on the 27th of December. Today, on my side, it's Christmas, it's New Year Day.
Happy New Year, brother. Happy New Year.
You know, we are in the New Year, and up to present, there is not a single result we can see from Aegis to say that the census, this is the number.
What's your commentary so far on what we have been hearing and your own experience while you're on the ground and your feedback you're getting from people right now?
I mean, this is not my field, so I won't try to sound like the expert, Alex Williams. So my views here would be from a whole independent or say political sense of the whole thing. But just from little research, you get to know that, for example, the United States of America has conducted census since 1790 up to today. Every 10 years they conduct census. So that underpins the significance of having a census, every decade. Because look, as Ellis, outlined, it really determines not only for government but for INGOs, for NGOs, for churches, for the religious groups. I mean, it basically determines how the entire country runs. To see that our government so incompetently handled the issue of the census, and now they are going to give us a fraudulent result that is not reliable. I mean, see what Alex is saying. So for the next 10 years, we're going to be making decisions based on abstract, non existent structures or non existent numbers, not real people. So these are things that were just made by a few group of people. And this poses not only danger to the very existence of our country, but I mean, it underpins everything that will happen to us in the next few years. So I'm appalled by what this government is doing and this government has been doing. But I'm also grateful that Alex is, sharing a lot of light on this. I mean, so let's let Alex really give us all the info about this. Yes.
I mean, I can tell you, for instance, the entire Pinsway belt currently has not even been counted up to even 20%. And you have people there that can call them.
That's
if you were to open the show today, you know what about?
That's true. That's true. That's what the person called me for. That's true.
I mean, it's not something that I'm guessing. It's something that I know. Every single day, religions, they are either suspending people or firing them because in their mind, people are leaking up information to me. But I am the author of the database that you're using. I am the author of the dashboard you're using. And you think you can exclude me from it without seeing what is happening? I can sit there right now and tell you places that are not being counted. Because I know it's my making. I am the creator. It is the culture. So, I mean, when I see people doing what, I can call you more than 10 places right now in Monserrate County. I can call you places in Riverside County that I can look here and tell you that they have not counted anybody. Even in Maryland, there's a place called Fishtown, Mission Town. Many people have not been counted.
Wow.
We know what is it. And people, like I said from the beginning, on OKFN, the day before the so-called proclamation that totally massively failed and not a single person was counted, I said to them that they were joking with a serious national process. Now today you see, even the issue about the election is affected by this. That is why the last time I said, if care is not taken, we may run into a transitional government arrangement. Why? Because the Constitution is very clear. The Constitution says, after a census is conducted,
yes, redistricting,
the legislature must use the census data to set threshold.
Exactly.
Threshold. You're right.
If you now go and provide a result and say that for the 5,000 person, for example, in Maryland, and the current threshold is for 5,000 or above for a representative, you are reducing the number of seats in Maryland. The people in Lagos, Maryland will not accept such a result. Now, if the legislature cannot set its constitutional threshold as per the Constitution, because this is not a matter of some ordinary law, it is the organic law we are talking about.
Yep.
Now, if you cannot utilize the census data to set threshold, what that means is that it is no longer a constitutional election, because that would be a violation of the Constitution. And if it is a violation of the Constitution, any citizen has got the right to go to the Supreme Court and cause for an interpretation of the Constitution. Now, assuming, for the hypothetical sake, that you have a census result right now, and you gave it to the legislature to set a threshold, and a threshold was set, the election commission have to use that census result now to do what we call delineation or demarcation of constituency boundaries.
Right.
It's also not an event. It is a process.
It's a process.
Now, the law also says every citizen must register in a particular constituent. That's what the law says. That's what the Constitution says. As we speak, we do not have constituent because we cannot use the 2008 census result.
So
the National Election Commission has no constitutional authority to commence voter registration. Because which constituent will people be registering in?
And that's why they push it to March.
You know, which constituent will people be registering in? Now, what also will happen is that lawmakers will be reluctant, especially representative, to pass a threshold, because if you pass a threshold at this stage, your constituency, when it is redemarcated, it will push you to a place that you have never worked, which reduces your chances of being re-elected. So this is a complete mess the country is in.
Right. So, yeah, go ahead.
And that is why, I was also saddened when I listened to the vice president saying that the president, during the State of the Nation address, will announce the final result of the census. I was like, are you kidding me? Go and watch the recording. Start from 1 hour 34 minutes of the vice president, 1 hour 34 minutes. In fact, I can say the recording to you now if you want. I think you might have the recording if you want to play it.
Yeah, we'll play if
you know, you are saying that the president will announce the final result. Imagine Mr. Cummings and Mr. Buerka and Mr. TARYOR and other people sitting and the president announcing the result. Are they going to accept such a result?
They should protest right in your home.
Which country have you seen census conducted and the president is announcing the result?
But
that is firstly a violation of the official principle of official statistics. It says they must be apolitical. Who conducted census in Liberia in 2008? You ever saw Manasedi announcing the final census result?
No, she did not.
No, she will only be invited to a program. Maybe she speak on it. But the statistician general will be the one close with the responsibility to announce the result. Recently, Ghana conducted the census 2021. I was there as one of the international monitors. After the census, go on the Ghana Statistical Service website today. It was the statistician general who announced the result of Ghana. Go to Zambia Stat. In Zambia, they just conducted the census a few days ago. They announced the result. In fact, it now has an application that you can see the result in real time. If you Google it right now, you see Zambia Stat population. It was the statistician general who announced the result. And you can, Sierra Leone, right near us, next door. How is it now that Liberia, the president, is doing everything?
Because that's the issue of sycophancy.
You know, and the president, not understanding these things, will feel so elected and so happy that the people are doing the right thing, and will be so proud to go to the capital where he is addressing the nation, and he will be announcing a cook result. That is not a representation of the fact that people with this
So Jonathan, go ahead.
So we're in a mess.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ellis. I know that we don't have much time because learning from someone like you is just worthwhile. I'm understanding that the leadership of the country, I want to come to Harvard just before we can take maybe 1 or 2 calls on the census, we can have other conversations for 1 hour 4 minutes. But I think this is a pattern. It's a pattern of secrecy or of making up stories and selling it to the general public other than giving us the harsh reality or going by system. I think it's a pattern of the government. If you see what Alex I explained with that of Great Crew, River G, the population then 2008, the population doing the mapping exercise, and the current population that they are claiming to have right now, you will see the disparity. So in the economy, you will hear that the Minister of, and you can expand on it, you hear the Minister of Finance saying, I mean, we have surpluses against our budget, against our revenue elevated to that of the expenditure. You will see that the MCC scorecard, they claim we have passed the MCC scorecard, but we are unable to get the grant and qualify for it. You will see that the interest rate against the inflation, it is actually the single digit inflation they are talking about economically. And, and the staggering prices of things, which is a driving force of the very inflation, for which, let me be specific, for which the special drawing rights for the IMF provided at least $350 million 2021 to reduce inflation, and also provided through the extended credit facility $240 million in 2019. What is really happening with our government in terms of hiding the harsh realities for us? Is it a pattern? Is it a way of life, or is just as a failure of government?
You see, this government is very insecure. The government,
No.
the government is very insecure. They will not tell the people the truth because they are afraid of the consequences of truth. So people, everything, even look at President Weah trip. Did the government even tell us how much they really?
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, Alex, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, be heard. We'll come to you. I've finished.
Okay.
So the government is a very insecure government, has not been able to share the truth with the Liberian people. Everything is fabricated. They will hold on to information they will not share. You look across different ministries in terms of the reporting, the annual report. You can hardly see any annual report. You saw some of them, you don't even see the website. Some of them, you see nothing on the websites. So just this tendency to hold information around away from the people is a strategy of this government. And, they really don't care. You can say whatever you want to say. They feel like they're in power, so they operate with that impunity that they can't give you any information that you want, which is not good for governance. And then going back to what Alex said about, Joel Howard saying the president, everything is about sycophancy. You cannot run a country like that. People have mandate to operate. They should be given that room to carry out the responsibilities to its fullest. The statistician general should be able to announce that census result. The legislative folks should be able to operate independently. Alex mentioned the income and expenditure report. There are so many other demographic kind of reports or economic indicator reports that legislature is supposed to be running. And I wonder what they are doing in terms of bringing that information to the people, really analyzing our population, analyzing our economy, analyzing some of the labor statistics that need to be out there. We don't see that level of production or activity coming from legislators. And it's just very disappointing that, we don't allow professionals to do the work, or we don't invite and tolerate and create that atmosphere where professional people can work, simply because we want to please one big shot, or we are afraid for real information to come out that gives a true picture of non-performance, incompetence, and other things that affect our development. So we are really in a bind, Jonathan. We are really in a bind.
Yes. Kessely, just before I come to Alex again, again, amidst all of these things that we are discussing, wages, the issue of the MCC scorecard, the inflation against the interest rate, the government being insincere, which tend to be a DNA of the government. what do you think of, because Ellis said something very cardinal, and I followed it very religiously when it came to the 2008 census. The smaller counties were in fight for the threshold passage against the bigger county. That thing lasted for almost a year plus, and they were going back and forth, because smaller counties never wanted their already small seats to be reduced otherwise. And so it was a huge hiccup. And stating, given what Ellis have stated, you know, I think I didn't follow it to the full conclusion, and I hope we will play that the vice president video. But just to say that the president will announce the final result, despite we need it to be legislated in terms of a debate of threshold setting and everything. What does it say? What is expected of our lawmakers, especially to elections and all of these mishaps of the issue of subsidy of rice, 11 million. Today I've increased by additional $2 or $3, $4. I mean, especially going to the season, no investigation about the rice situation. What does it say to you in terms of the upcoming 2023, and what can we hope for in it?
I mean, let me start with the whole thing about the rice business. Dolakeh, the price of rice actually has increased by more than $6 because rice was sold for, according to the government own statistics, for $13.50, and now the price has increased to $20. So that's way more than $6. I just wanted to clarify that. The fact that the vice president of Liberia will have the audacity to announce that the president of Liberia is the one that will announce the final results of the census does not only speak to the fact that our government currently is incompetent, and that almost all of our officials in key and strategic places are now informed that the president does not have the right group of advisors. But beyond that, it also points to the fact that this government is failing. This government has no sense of direction. This government has failed. And every little thing, whether it is based on fulfilling the constitutional mandate given to her, is just meant to make the president to look like he's good or he's working or he's competent, to serve as president of Liberia, up to and including now the census. Because look, what is the essence of Joshua announcing the census except to say, oh, they said we're not going to conduct census, and now we have conducted the census. These are the results of the census. Even though he does not recognize the political fallback that comes with announcing the census. As Alex said, and truly, the census should be apolitical because, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I'm not cutting you off. I just sent the recording to Mr. TUKPAH. I will appreciate if you can just play so that we listen to the voice of the vice president.
So, as you muted, we can't hear you.
Go ahead. I'll play it once I get it downloaded.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so the fact here is that Josh, we are coming to announce that becomes a signature, achievement of the government. They have failed to realize that it is not about Josh Weah. It is about Liberia, because the results from the census, it's very important to not only the government, it is important to every institution in the country. It is important to the government, it is important to the CDC, just as it is important to the ANC and other political parties, because we all need to use an unbiased, credible, and verifiable data from the census to make political decisions. Our international partners will use that same data to make very important decisions. Take, for example, Alex was talking about Painesville. Painesville is the biggest city in Liberia. The population is huge. If you go sit somewhere in red light and generate numbers for Painesville, you know what you're going to be talking about? See the challenges that people face in Painesville. How many clinics are there in Painesville? How many hospitals are there in Painesville? What is the statistics of school going children and those out of school? Like, there are hundreds of questions that need to be answered that will not be answered But the CDC is focused on making Joshua appear to be competent, appear to be performing, and that the conduct of the census is a signature achievement to prove that Joshua now is qualified, and in fact, he needs to be given another chance to lead Liberia for the next 6 years. I mean, so nothing is working in Liberia, and nothing is going to work insofar as Joshua is president, and everything is going down the drain. I can tell you, if we really want to have a data to use for the next development drive or whatsoever, the next government account should be able to conduct another census, because I mean, what has happened right now is a complete fiasco. It's a waste of money, waste of time, and only meant to cause further hardship on our people and nothing more than that. Dolakeh.
Yeah, trying to.
Yeah, why you trying to upload
Right.
Madam Juawa Taylor's statement about the president announcing the census result other than the statistician general that should be doing it. I just like to give Ellis few more time to see the inconsistency of the government. Number one, you were never appointed by the president, and being human and being patriotic as an individual. When the missteps were going on, every time you advise, I even listened to you on OKFM that the if of that censor, where you try to provide some correction, and they could not listen. You resigned. They thought that I would have blackmailed the repetition of leges, and so they came begging again in the same sycophancy and false information providing. They went ahead again and quoted you otherwise as though they have sacked you, where it was not within the ambit of the president. I mean, as a professional person who void of politics, who is passionate about number and the accuracy, because it must give the result needed. What do you make of all these things that keep happening and keep putting our country in a bad condition? What is your thought about it? What is the way out further?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not
You
getting
loud.
you.
Are
I
you
don't
getting
think
me?
I don't think he got you.
Hello?
He didn't get.
Yeah, so I was saying that you were appointed per the either created leges. You should have been appointed in accordance with the board consultation other than the president of the country. And you have advised on numerous occasions. I listened to one on the eve of the censor when you call on OKFM, and too many different occasions you are trying to make intervention so that you keep in line with the standard that is required for statistics. And then with all that, the government could not listen to you as a professional person who is passionate about what you have learned over the period of time. And you thought to resign, even in your patriotism, to resign because you never wanted to get mixed up with wrong information and wrong data. The government felt that it would blackmail the image of leges, and so they never wanted you to go public. But the same government that is inconsistent, that is consistent in spewing out lies, misinformation, and debasing quality sector, came up again and said that they sack you, though they were appealing to you to not come in public. What do you make of such a government that now increasing grade crew population, then while you statistician have predicted and is far removed from it? I mean, what do you think of it?
I mean, it all boils down to insincerity lack of love for country, self, greed, dishonesty, lack of integrity. That's what I can say. Those are the words I will want to, classify the actions in a summary form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so before Ava can come with the video,
no, the video is not playing for
yeah,
me.
Ava, you'll be next quickly. What would be your advice? What would be your advice? I mean, look at our country. We have 100 million worth of cocaine, whatever drugs it is, laying at the free port of Monrovia, not at Loguato border, not at Toll Towns border, not at any of those polarized border where they are illegal and people can smuggle things, but at the free port of Monrovia. Through the intervention of our international partner, the US government, we're able to track 100 million worth of drugs. Imagine how it blackmail our country and no one takes responsibility the agents of government. 3 officials been sanctioned up to today. The president is still telling us that there will be a committee. Nothing has been done, knowing that we are using dual currency, another country in the currency. And this country is coming after us because there are corrupt people in our system who are keeping people in squalor life in Rock Spring Valley in different areas. I mean, what is your advice? Taking someone with fake credential. Now you have a credential. You are a satisfied person, statistician. The globe knows you. You are represented Liberia into Ghana. We are not utilizing your capacity. But instead, Mr. Sametu and other folks are utilizing somebody who got fake credential into a financial discipline institute. What could be your advice to us as a country and young people coming up? I mean, give up all of that, all of what is going on. Then Ava can come in after you.
This is what I would say. The number one thing that has destroyed Liberia and its fabric and its growth and development has been corruption. I always share my experience when I came or went to graduate school. I was fortunate to benefit from the taxpayers' money of the Republic of Liberia to go and do my master's in the Czech Republic. If you research the Czech Republic does not have even 20% of the natural resources that Liberia has. But the Czech Republic is able to pay all those who are unemployed and wants benefit $700 United States that are equivalent on a monthly basis. Most of the streets of the Czech Republic are paved with tar in the city of Prague and many other cities. Why are these people so advanced as opposed to us that has all of both natural and artificial resources? Simply, number one, because of love for country, because of discipline. Everywhere around the world there is corruption. But to what extent? And how is the system fighting against corruption? In Liberia, and that's one major frustrating part I have with President Weah, who I support, who I labor for in the war room, in prison. I remember a time, 2013, I was placed in jail, not once, not twice, by the Eden regime, because we called for her resignation, we called for the establishment of War and Economic Crime Code. Now, if we have been fortunate to come to power, and the Liberian people have entrusted this government, and we come to power and do maybe 10 times what was done before, I am sad by that. I am very much disappointed. Whether it is the issue of cocaine, or whether it is the issue of some lawmakers' health facility getting more support than JFK and Redemption, or whether it is the issue of mysterious death in the country, those are all signs of bad governance. Those are all signs of lack of leadership. Those are all signs of incompetence, gross incompetence. And so I'm disappointed by that. And I can only hope for the best for my country. That is all I can say to that, extending to that regards.
So I don't know if you're able to get the video, Jonathan, but I can share it. Alex, if you can, you should be able to see the plus.
I think what you can do, you can only play it from your phone as audio rather than share.
Okay, let me play it from my phone as audio. I don't know.
You can still show it to the people.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, everyone knows the vice president voice, and if you play it.
Yeah, so you get some numbers yourself and see where we are.
So on Tuesday will be public, and do you think we have increased the numbers?
I'm not sure. Let's wait and see. I believe there are many babies. All what I know, I believe we are going across the 5 million mark, because when you travel, that's all you see, little babies everywhere. So the preliminary numbers will come up on the 27th, and then when the mark up is finished over the next 2 weeks, in January, before the president makes his State of the Union, I think he will provide the final numbers, and then it will go to the legislature for the other agreements that we have to make. So I believe we would have done a very good job with the census and the additional information we get to help all of us look more keenly about who's working, who's not, what the real numbers are. Then maybe Tom and myself can have a new.
So that's just it. So you listen to the vice president, that the president will provide the real numbers and final numbers.
The real numbers.
This is the number 2 president of the Republic of Liberia.
So it has to do a lot with understanding governance and again, sycophancy.
And sadly, the 27 have passed. We are in New Year, and there's no sense of result.
There will be no sense of results from them just coming easily like that.
They have to bring us sense of result.
Yeah, but I'm saying they will cook it.
They have to give us something.
They will keep cooking until you try to get to the right point. But you mentioned all those other things, the economy, the suffering of the people. But I truly believe the Liberian people have to decide for themselves. We can do these shows here, we can go on the radio in Liberia and talk about it. But until they really feel and care about themselves in a way that they can make a decision that is best for them in their interest in terms of the kind of leadership they want, the country is not going to change. If people cannot feel hunger, if they cannot feel insecurity that is so evident in the different communities, if they can see many of their children cannot go to school on a consistent basis, some semesters they are able to find out 3,500 to register them into the government school. Other semesters, they don't have that 3,500. They go all around asking, begging. They don't get it. The kids stay out of school. The healthcare. I get bunch of messages, WhatsApp, Messenger, asking for healthcare for people to go to the hospital. The person coming die. The person need pap smear. The person will rape they can say the womb misplaced or displaced. They need so many different tests. They need help. We see the requests from so many different people. And unfortunately, they have to realize that the status quo as it is, how things are going in Liberia today, will not give them that opportunity for them to be able to help their family, for them to be able to have better health care, for them to be able to have school, for them to be able to empower themselves from a business perspective. You know how many people walk with a market all day long and they can't even get $5, which is like 750 LD, selling those things, the amount of hours wasted, that many of those people could be in school or could be training, and opportunities can be opened up with the right environment. We have to teach them, but it's up to them to make that decision at that point. And many people are not there yet. So people who care have to keep talking to our people. People who they will listen to have to keep talking to our people. Because sometimes people don't hear things just the first time or the second time. You got to say it 4, 5, 6 times before they can realize, oh, yeah, maybe that's true. So we can't give up. We got to keep talking. We got to keep working with people like Alex, who will sacrifice whatever they can to make sure that Liberia is moving in a better direction rather than compromise their principles or do things that undermine the the sanctimony of whatever mandate they are operating under. So is that somebody calling or that Alex? Okay. So to that extent, it's a very tough thing. We talk about the sanctions. We talk about the deaths. The president, I don't know if he understands the role of leadership for our country yet. The enjoyment, he fully understands. The benefits, he understands. The extra benefits, he understands. But to understand that you have a responsibility and obligation to the people, the ones that you call masses that really got you elected, I don't think he has gotten that understanding yet. And hopefully he will pay for that in 2023. That's the expectations, because I think majority of the people have resolved that this government is not in their favor and they need to look in another direction. So we just have to stay committed. We got to stay pushing. We got to keep working in the best interest of the Liberian people.
So we gone 1 hour 31 minutes. We just touch a point, which is human development aspect. We had a situation that was 2021, 2022, you can correct me, about EPS agent Alex. Not Alex, sorry for his name, but his name was Ed. I think that was his name. And it was reported that he killed himself in Nimba County, specifically Tapeta, when the president was on his tour. And then flow with the situation of the National Elections Commission logistician from Grand Jide County who are gone missing since it was reported. And the narrative between Madam Ellen Cookron and the Solicitor General, who was accused of being involved into ritualistic killing, and all of these things compounding, especially for the Grand Judean logistician. On Liberia gone missing, the Simosi 3 ball scenario. What does it say that our country cannot follow up and clear the doubt of the ordinary citizen to give them security, to give them confidence? What does it say to us? Unlike you hear the president saying that Liberians should own CCTV, when in reality, bulk of the LEC that people are getting hooked up to have been stolen, and not just stolen, but in some instances, people that the speaker are being accused of stealing this current. What does it say about our country? What does it say? Ava, MULBAH KESSELLY, and Alex is around. What does it say?
There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning that has to take place. There's a lot of hard decisions that have to be made. So LEC is a monopoly in terms of stealing current. But LEC has not been able to turn a profit. LEC has not been able to fire all those corrupt transformer installers or people who can, connect wires in the communities and allow people to steal current. It's a business. It's a corporation, the Liberia Electricity Corporation. And I will have to understand that current not free. That information has to be consistently communicated. And if we can't educate our people to some of these things, they will continue to just expect everything to be free. They will just continue to think that we got to beg for everything. Nobody wants to work, nobody wants to bootstrap. And we cannot continue like that as a people. Education is key, just simple civic education, both in schools and in the communities, has been absent on a consistent basis. So many people don't even know their rights. They don't understand this democracy that we say is our form of governance. They don't understand um, the social contract between they and the government. They don't understand all our resources that the government contracts with all these foreign direct investors and generate revenue, and it's just used for salaries and other things. They don't understand that those contracts, the corporate social responsibility piece, the country plan, should be implemented to their benefit. And they don't have people who educate them and teach them. Even with the ancestral land that they own, the negotiation around those land, the Chinese are all over the place, other nationals. Sometimes the national government will sign a contract for extraction of minerals from those people areas, and they have nothing to say. They don't have, the lawmakers are compromised. They don't get that opportunity to get the benefit. 6, 7 years, 10 years after the people have, extracted minerals from there, they leave big holes in the ground. They leave communities that are just wrecked, because a lot of these mineral communities that crop up, they just makeshift. They don't really build structures there. The days of Borma and Lamco building a real concession estate with different areas for staff and other people in Firestone. I can't tell you the last time any concession came to Liberia and really built facilities for the people of, very good living standards. And that has to change. Nobody enforces. I don't know what the Bureau of Concessions is for. They don't force the law. They don't force it to make it happen for the Liberian people. So who's fighting for the Liberian people? And they got to understand how negligent this government is with respect to those responsibilities. It's an absentee government, unfortunately. But seriously though, I want to know from y'all tell me something positive about the government for the 2022 that I'm
Let's know about one further. We'll come talk about the positive.
We'll come out of that.
Maybe I don't have the eyes to see the positive things the government has done. But look, 2022 for me was a year where most of the terrible things Mr. Weah has done since he became president came back to bite his government. Take for example, we're talking about the substandard roads that the government did. Say in Duncanville, some of those roads, have potholes on them now, and Joshua is still president, and the roads have not even lasted for 2 years. Talk about how the public works minister, after more than a year of contracting the RIA role to some bogus company with Nathaniel McGill and others having share in, announced that the company lacks the technical ability to be able to do the RIA role, putting the lives of thousands of our citizens in harm's way, literally trying to strangulate our economy because the RIA plays a pivotal role in the Liberian economy. People coming in and the country and leaving the country use that route. It's a major highway. It is also a road leading to Grand Bassa County, River says, Azevas County. I mean, talk about all the whole Bassa belt. That whole segment or portion of Liberia is threatened and may be cut off if something does not happen immediately. And now the whole government is in campaign mode. I can assure you that they will probably not do the RIA rule, or they would do very substandard rule that we will have to go back and redo. So nothing has been working under Joshua. I don't think anything will work again. Joshua has failed our people. Recently, we all witnessed how we are left Liberia for 48 days. What did we accrue as a country and people? What was the benefit that came to us directly? He went and saw his son playing for the United States. I mean, I have no issues against America, right? But even the president of the United States son cannot pledge allegiance to another country. That is the height of lack of patriotism. So look, Joshua is not a good man. Joshua is a bad leader. He's a very terrible influence. What is he teaching the next generation of Liberian leaders? What is he teaching the next generation of Liberian students and children? As a matter of fact, his inability to even communicate properly to the Liberian citizenry already creates by itself a lot of problems for the next generation of Liberians. Because look, Isaac and Dolakeh, the president is expected not only to set the economic tone or the developmental tone or the policy drive of his government. He is expected to lay a roadmap for generations after his tenure because children are growing up. Who do they know as president of Liberia? George Weah. And when they listen to George Weah, what can they learn from George Weah? The fact that George Weah tells us if education could develop country, Liberia will be the most developed country. And that is not even statistically backed. Because compare the number of graduates we get from Liberia with countries in the sub-region. Our population, we have about, I mean, the number of people that graduate every year is 0.5% of our population. Very, very minimal. The lowest number of graduates in the entire sub-region. But yet still, Georgia believes Liberians are educated. We are putting up college and university graduates who do not know what it means to boot a computer. I always say this. And you talk about a president who is not even investing in education. See how our education has gone down the drain. A typical example of the catastrophic failure of George Weah is the city mayor and the secretary general of the CDC. The man does not even express himself, but this government gave him a degree through the University of Liberia. That's how terrible our country has become. These people are clueless. They don't care about our country. All they do is to dance booga and enjoy themselves. And I don't believe that our people will sit by and want to give Joshua another opportunity. Look, I always tell people we don't hate Joshua. Nobody hates Joshua. But we hate the fact that he is ruining our country. We love Liberia more than we love any other person. If we were talking about football, then you say, okay, Joshua is the best footballer. But even our football under Joshua is going down the drain. We cannot play international games at the Samarkando Sports Complex. That is the monumental example of how Joshua is a terrible example of anything that comes to leadership. This man should not be president today. So I mean, I don't think that's happened. Okay, so if that's your question, I mean, look, we can go on and on. Look, before I even conclude, Lofa County, the breadbasket of Liberia. I have to say this, Dolakeh, the breadbasket of Liberia. If you can recall, on December 17, 2017, Joshua and Madam Salif broke grounds for the construction of the Banga to Salai Road. Very important stretch of the Lofa County Road. The cost was around $40 million. Our national partners fulfilled their commitments. The project began in January of 2018. Till date, that road has not been paved. And Dolakeh, you want me to count something Joshua has done? Let's talk about the fact that somebody was involved in a very stretched road that failed to pave. And the former of the country to seek medical attention. What did they do for the driver? And they were at TFK and struggling. Such a wicked man.
Yes. And look, while we are about to wind down, I heard Avad and yourself talking about civic education. I think it's going to be the major area of focus of opposition political parties, how to get into the people, explaining what are government priorities, what government would have done better. I mean, and letting our people know exactly some of the hiccups of the government, how they are mismanaged. I mean, area of concentration that they would have improved and would have done better for our people. So when I try to look back, I look at the 48 days of the presidency of the country on taxpayers' money. I mean, basically doing nothing to bring back home. President returning and referring to opposition as people who spoil everything that he's trying to fix. When the president was a senator, peace ambassador, dealing with government budget. The vice president was a senator for 12 years. I mean, I don't know as to whether he responded to Mr. Cummings that Mr. Cummings was suffering from amnesia when the communication came up. Is the true amnesia he's suffering from, that he does not remember that indeed he was senator, he made budget appropriation, he had oversight responsibility. We have the issue of the National Bureau of Concession and the Western Cluster. Today, iron ore have been dragged from Bombay County in trucks, which is harmful. Our value from Broadway End, you know what it means for our Broadway End. And lastly, before you go, I just like to remind us to think about some of these things. We are and foreign players, mobile broadband is very important. They were paid $5,000 US each 2001. 2001 for the qualification of the World Cup. On a chart said that each of the foreign players that played for Liberia at the time that we are our technical director, they were paid $5,000 as a yeni, making sure that Liberia qualified for World Cup. As it is today, the best thing that we have done in a whole life that the whole globe knows him for, which is soccer, it has depleted to the lowest base. So I just want you to be reminded about that as you grade what the president had done.
Look, on the president part is a colossal failure. And, having been one of those who helped the president get elected, the idea was not for him to appoint a bunch of sycophants and incompetence. Unfortunately, that's what he did because that's his comfort zone. The discussion had always been, and he said it so many times himself, that he would appoint Liberians who were qualified, and who would help him govern. But when he got there, even before inauguration, he was switching from that mindset. So he has failed because the people around him are not competent professionals to really tell him the truth about what's happening, to tell him when some of his decisions he's taking are wrong, some of the positions he wants to take are wrong. And when you don't have a bunch of sycophants around you, you're basically naked. You are totally exposed because they will try to insulate you. You have no input from the outside, from people who really care and want to make a difference. And you guys just go on fumes because the actual work of governance is not being done. There's just so many things that have broken down from a governance perspective in individual institutions, processes, and procedures that just scrapped because a lot of professionals that were in government, the real technocrats who didn't necessarily have any kind of political alliance, they were relieved in order to, satisfy seditions or friends or family members to get into those positions. And the thing is, that mindset and that culture starts from the top. If the president can just appoint friends and do whatever and not worry about competence, you think no friends he appointed will go look for competent people? No. They're appointing friends the same way. So it's a downstream effect that affects the entire country. And that's what we have right now. We got low capacity people operating, a country with 5.2 million population that should be, providing services for so many disenfranchised people that nothing is being, done for. And they're not coming to the table with our partners, or I don't think the people even consider us as partners. Because we just come there with yes sir, and to beg. We're not coming with gravitas. We're not coming with our own strategy, our own perspective, or how we want their presence in our country to be. what the specifics are, what the rules of engagement are. We are just accepting, basically anything to bring in, because we are so behind the 8 ball in terms of our own preparation of coming to the table that we can't really tell them, where we stand or what our position is. So we are really we are really suffering because of an incompetent president. That's just simply it. We love what he did for the country. He carried the flag, he played soccer and everything. Even that, in terms of where he is today, sports is a major unifier. Sports is like it will elevate you. It can build your patriotism. It can make you love your country more. There has been no focus really on grassroots sports, domestic sports, and creating opportunities for our athletes. I truly believe in the talent of Liberians. I believe we are very talented. If given the opportunity, we succeed. How many Liberians have played this country? I think 230, 260 million people in the US or whatever. Joe Namason played for the US national team in soccer. Joe Wilson played for the US national team. There's one other Liberian who playing for the US national soccer team. So just imagine if other Liberians had that opportunity to train, to have the right diet, the right nutrition, the right workout regimen. They will succeed immensely compared with other people, because we just are a really talented people. Even in the arts, in the other areas. Look at Mr. Alexander Cummings as an example. People can take it for a joke. But he lived in Point Four before he went to FIAMA. He went to demonstration school. Then he went to CWA. Then he went to Cottenham before he went to the US. And he was able to compete at the highest level with other people. There are so many other Liberians out there that we can call on. Antoinette Saye. What is Rhoda Weeks?
Gaffon.
Dr. Cooper, Dr. Jones. Many of these people have been successful. Some of them, because we are so separated, we have not tried to recruit or have some sort of professional interrelation among Liberians to create a space and say, this is this dedicated platform. All Liberian professionals come there. Then we know, how many Liberians out there. I met another guy the other day, Max Jarrett. That there's so many other people in the technology space here in the US. Then we talk about, Dwalu Kasu. He's a computer scientist, work with Airbnb and other big time companies in this country. So there are so many Liberian talented people starting, even in the business sector, starting their own business and getting to a high level of success. People running corporations. Victor Hochstrom, running the public radio station. They call him like whoever can come and take a screwed up situation and make it right. That's what he does. He goes into messed up public radio stations and then regenerate them and make them happen. So we have potential. We got to tap into. Everybody across Africa today is saying, and across the world, that the diaspora is needed. The African diaspora is needed. We need serious programs that call on the people in the diaspora that can integrate them with the people on the ground, whether it's mentoring, whether it's supporting, whether it's contractual, but they have to be involved for us to move our country forward. And there are other people now, especially in America and other places in the diaspora, who are doing their ancestry, and they are finding out different parts of Africa they can come to. And we have direct connection. We can actually trace the histories there from 1810 or wherever, 1822, when those people first came, when we were coming all the way to take the ship to come. The traces of those histories, of those people, those different families, connecting them directly to South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and other areas. So we can build those relationships. Again, a friend of mine, Ben Freeman, he did a book with a group of other immigrants, and there's a place in I can't remember the name of the place in Virginia, but one of the former president's estate, and it's where they went, they collected, and they did these stories. Building those kind of relationships, somebody like Ben Freeman can go to those people and talk about the situation in Liberia if it was just favorable to embrace the diaspora and the talent in the diaspora to be a part of what's happening there. So there's a lot of opportunities for Liberia to develop, a lot of things that we have from a historical perspective. The whole Pan-African movement is basically on a restart, on a new, generation, and people are interested in the history. Okay, and Liberia was an active part of helping so many African countries get their liberation, hosting so many freedom fighters who came through, that we supported. President Tupman was like a godfather to many of these people. President Tobo engaged them. So at what point do we look at that history and try to teach the current generation how valuable, how important it is to be Liberian? People look up to us before the French speaking West Africa, Petit America, other African people. I'm talking to another friend. This, like, I think, either he said it was Dana Arab Ma or some Moa in Kenya or some Autoing. With all Liberia, there will be no Kenya. Because we were the second option for them when it came to education. If they didn't go to America, they came to Liberia to learn. Cottington, there were many foreign students there. University of Liberia, many foreign students. So at some point, the pride in our country and the history we have, and I applaud some of those who really push the Liberian history. Koye, Dennis Ja on the focus on Liberia, Dr. Carl Patrick Burroughs, Dr. Edward Dunn, and other historians. Even this guy Rich Lou Williams, if that's his name, where he has his own platform to just share this rich history that we have, and we need to start to really live like the people we are supposed to be living like, and we need leadership to be able to do that. We need to engage the hearts and minds of our people and let them understand our culture, our heritage. Yes, I'm one of those who don't want the negative and bad practices to be there, but our culture is rich, our heritage is rich. The practices that are positive and that can make a difference for our people are those we are supposed to be pushing and moving forward. So that's why I look towards 2023 as a major opportunity, a major rebirth in the mindset of our people, because it has to happen in the mindset first, and then they can be empowered mentally, maybe not economically, to start to think about change, understand from a civic perspective the responsibilities of the government and the neglect that has happened, and be able to make that decision in 2023 that yes, we want our country to move forward. So I don't want to preach, but that's where I think.
So to close up, we have had disappointment. We have not exploded avenues that would have done better as a country under this leadership. And I listened to one professor from the criminal justice background when Mr. Cummings came to California. And he said that he was in Liberia somewhere around the neighborhood of 1997 to 99. And he interacted with some of the stakeholders, and some professional person told him that Liberia had 3 resources and is well coordinated. Liberia will be one of the best countries. Liberia has the diasporan expert that they can tap upon. They have the Liberians back home who are educated and resourceful, and they have the natural resources. With these 3 things, Liberia should be a successful nation. And it brings me to the point of the 2023 general and presidential elections. And there where I want both for you to close up as we run up to the 2 hours period. We've heard a lot of things. Many of us that live in this country, like Mr. Cummings will say, it is good to predict system than to predict an individual, because someday he may pass away, he may not be around, and if he's not around, people will think that because he's not yet, so he's not working. But when you build a system and coordinate it, you can predict what the future holds. We want an election that to have a leader that can bring the system, if not 100%, which we don't think it should be the benchmark of the person, but to some level, a system that can be well coordinated and people can trust and rely on. But there is a back and forth by political actors. Someone will claim, for example, Mr. Cummings is just coming and he should be vice standard bearer, though it doesn't make sense. You don't campaign for vice standard bearership. Some people have went to the extent to which they are placing a court case for as a review of the year for criminal libel, criminal alteration. Today it backfired. Some of those who claim that Mr. Kumi would have gone, in primary school as part of the verdict. Today they are unsanctioned. You have listened to Koji about his contemplation. I think he said contemplation, but the real word is to contemplate, that the CDC is contemplating, and the ANC has what it takes, to join their efforts. And lastly, we are great 7%, ANC in particular. But this ANC that is greater at 7%, which is a form of denigration in their mind, this ANC and the CPP are the ones, all of the complaint is about rainfall, sunshine, sanction, everything about the country, to the extent to which the president think that Mr. Cummings is one of his, is his major opponents. What is our vision? What can we communicate here today as we close this conversation for ordinary Liberians who may come across the video, who are following the video, to know exactly what Mr. Cummings stands for, what have been his engagement, and how he thinks Liberians should collectively work together, which have been a dominating passion of his life. I want MULBAH to take 2 minutes on it or so, and Ava, you can come in, and then we can call it all night.
Thank you. So we agreed that government has they cannot do anything different. It would be the equivalent of a circle of fire. We were to make mistake lives power, but it's a beacon like hope, and that is true. And the CPP. The fact is that there are underlying factors that inform our to elect Alexander Cummings head of any other presidency. So things that we need to bring to our attention of presidential candidates running for the presidency, none of them understand economy when it comes to understanding economic does understand than any of the individual presidential contenders. And put the contenders together, put all of them together versus Alexander Cummings. Alexander Cummings still stands tall, and he economics than all of the other presidential candidates, Joshua and the other major presidents. So if that will work for us, provide job opportunities, or make sure the foreign companies will make sure we reduce the bureaucracy, raise revenue, and alleviate the suffering of our people economically. So we talk about Alexander Cummings understands the importance of temporary education for our children. He lives and works in a competitive environment, and he educated people and ensure that they have the confidence to compete themselves like they were better. And we also put Liberians at a platform where they can against submission in any other parts of the world. Even in Liberia, as we speak today, they only science, science, technology, engineering. One introduction by Alexander Benedict Cummings. The fact here is that for Liberians, all gravitating toward technology, and even to those like social media is playing a pivotal role in our daily life. Where the world is going, technology. So we need to catch the next set of engineers who running Facebook, we can Liberians to sit right there managing Facebook infrastructure and whatsoever. When it comes, do not pay with our education to seriously and serious about changing education in our country. So let's talk about creating better. Alexander Cummings has another international performance. Reason why Joshua is struggling is not in the big respect. Joshua, the big Joshua for US, he can even meet Joe Biden one-on-one. The only time he had opportunity to was with other African leaders. But Joe one-on-one meeting with the president, for example, and get $1 to a extractive industry, of gold and industry. Hear me? Hear you?
I thought it was my computer, but something wrong with your mic because other people are saying the same thing, so they can understand what you're saying. Now you're on mute.
Is it better?
Much better.
Oh,
you need to buy new headphones, my man.
Okay, so I probably just wasted my time talking all the other things I said. I don't know.
Well, maybe they picked one or two words out. That was like 3 minutes ago, 4 minutes ago. I really noticed it. But just round up.
So, so I talk about the education. I talk about the economy. I think I should go over that. Of all the presidential candidates running for president, if you put all of them together, Alexander Cummings alone understands economics better than all of them in one bracket, and Alexander Cummings standing in one bracket. So that means in terms of being able to put food on our people's table, Alexander Cummings has that capacity better than any other person. Joshua certainly can do it, and the other persons cannot do it. So I was talking about, again, the ability to attract foreign direct investment. One reason why our people are struggling.
Just 1 minute. 1 minute. Can you cut your earphone off because it's having? I try to monitor it. There's a feedback.
But I turn it off. I think it's better now.
Okay.
It's better. Go ahead.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So one reason why our people are struggling and suffering is because no one in the international business world has a modicum of regard for George Weah, but it takes him serious. He go to these people, they don't even want to talk to him one-on-one because he has no idea. He has no clue as to what he wants for the country. A typical example is the recent engagement African leaders had with President Joe Biden. President Biden met the Zambian president one-on-one, and the U.S. government is investing over $100 million in the extractive industry of Zambia. Why is that happening? Because there is international regard for the Zambian president. George Weah likes that. Joe Biden did not meet him one-on-one. The only time he had that close connect with Joe Biden was when he was watching the football game. And what could he say at that point? Nothing. So nobody takes our president serious. They only involve him into playing games. And Alexander Cummings is a different kind of leader. He offers a different perspective for our international partners. And people will listen to Alexander Cummings because he has the international pedigree, he has the experience, and he has the regard in the international business community. So he can bring foreign direct investment better than any other person. Because look, let's remove Joshua, the next opposition contender, the former vice president. Who respects the former vice president in the sub-region? Nobody. Look, how many friends does he have in the sub-region? Nobody. So I want you to tell me, if that man had any international reputation, why is he been recognized by international bilateral partners? Why is he sitting on boards? You see, Mrs. Salif, for example, our international partners do regard Mrs. Salif. She's involved with many international efforts because they know she brings some lessons. The former vice president clearly does not have that, and he's not involved with anything, and there's no regard for him. Nobody will want to invest in Liberia. Looking at a man who sits there and they know nothing about him, everything is just gossip and assumptions. So look, economic-wise, Cummings is number one. Education, Cummings is at number one. I talk about that, investing into STEM and ensuring that our children can learn in competitive environment to be able to compete with students in the sub-region and students out of the world. We should be able to teach our children to an extent where many Liberians can be able to run Facebook algorithms right from their homes in Liberia. We should bring food to their families. So talking about, again, dealing with the endless stretch of bureaucracy in Liberia, Alexander Cummings clearly can end that. Look at how many times our people struggle just to take their goods through the free port of Monrovia. That is something that we need to end immediately. We need to have a one-stop shop. You come and it should take you a few hours to get your container out of the free port. You should not have to bribe somebody or pay somebody, because look, we do not have an automated system. We create bureaucracies, and we have people sitting there that have to collect money for George Weah, the other person collect money for Nathaniel McGill, and collect money for Bill Chilwell. By the time you finish paying for those 3, 4, 5, 6 persons, your continue get out, you have to inflate the price of your commodity because you do not want to lose. At the end of the day, who suffers the blunt? The ordinary people. We cannot keep electing people who do not care about the ordinary people. They only care about themselves. Alexander Cummings clearly cares about Liberia. Let me give you another instance that proves that he really cares about our people. Now, one of the things George Weah is so obsessed with is driving nice cars, and walking on red carpet. For him, that is the achievement. We cannot have such a man sitting in the most respectable office in our country. We need a president who has lived that life, who understands that that's nothing. That service to the country and ensuring that you make Liberia better, so that when your children walking on the streets in Liberia, they can be proud that it is an honorable duty to your citizenry, to your fellow men, to your countrymen, that 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, people will look back and hail you. If you do not see public service as that, you do not deserve the Liberian presidency. Clearly, George Weah does not see public service as that. And even the other major opposition contenders do not see public service as that. And it's not Cummings sees it as that. And that's another very important reason why we should have Alexander Cummings elected as president of Liberia. Look, I can go on and on. I won't stop talking, because this man has proven that he has the discipline, he has the fortitude and the tenacity. See how many times the government has tried to intimidate and harass him. He still lives in Liberia. He still competes with the government. He puts George Weah feet to the fire. He's reminding them of how they are failing catastrophically to perform on the duties for which they were elected to serve our people. How they are insulting the Liberian people on a daily basis. How they are bringing on ending poverty on the ordinary people. See how people in Grand Crew County are living. People in Grand Gila County. People in West Point, people in Niku Town, people in Douala. See how they are struggling. See how they are suffering because the government is not investing in the right place. Joshua talked about roads. He's not paving any roads. How many roads has Joshua paved? Some of the very few roads he's paved are substandard roads. Most of those roads are useless. We have to do different roads. So, I can go on and on, but I have to end here and let the old man take the microphone.
Yeah, yeah, I know. The problem is one of the solution. And so there's no solution, by the way. Just stealing taxpayer money. But I'd like to point at a situation in particular in the Southeast region, and particularly Grand Crew County. This place name is called Walabo and Jedebo. Walabo and Jedebo is an area that has 2 police stations. And each of the police stations, for those of us from the ballot paper that is issued for those areas is around 300 to 500, just in case some spoil. So it means that you have almost 600 human beings living in that area. No safe drinking water, no school. That's the condition of the area. In Grand Crew County, we have Grand Access radio station that belongs to Albert Chie. We have Antenna radio station, which is for Fanatic Kufade. It is interpreted as our time. Then you have Voice of Grand Crew, which should be the community radio station that everyone should be supporting. This radio station has been abandoned. The only 2 radio stations that are active is the deputy speaker and the Potem radio station. I mean, what does it say about how our people in that part of the world or part of Liberia will air their view and participate in the civic conversation when they have to go to these 2 radio stations that may not likely like that tune and couple up with what he think Mr. Cummings represent? Thank you.
Well, let me address that first, then I will come to a couple of points you were stressing. Is the freedom of speech is limited, even right now, as much as without doing too much, the reaching out to radio stations and newspapers and telling them that we, the ANC, should not be heard, George Weah himself caused so many people upset that we are there and we are presenting and we are talking and we are criticizing and we are offering solutions. So that suppression of speech, I hope the people will feel it and be able to express themselves at the ballot box. It's just, there's no way somebody said we should step up and involve more political parties. I agree. It will be important for us to have a broader coalition around Mr. Cummings, and we are seeking that. We are speaking to people, but unfortunately, sometimes some of these leadership, some of the demands, maybe, or some of the expectations, or money talk sometimes, and I don't think we are in a position to just pay people to just come. That's just, in my mind, too expensive. And Liberia is not for Mr. Cummings. It's not going to be for him, even if he wins. Liberia should be for all of us. And for anyone to feel like they have the monopoly, that they should dictate everything about Liberia. Take our national bank like the piggy bank. Take the different revenue generating agency and stuff like the restaurant or their business where they can just get money from. That really negates the ability to provide for these people that you talk about in Grand Crew. Government should be focused on being able to present development in a way that it impacts the lives of its people, even in the most remote part of the country. But like I said before, the demands on people doing business in Liberia escape. People compromise what these people promise in their country plans or what's in a concession agreement and don't come away, so our people lose. So unfortunately, we don't have people who represent the interests of our country, our masses, our people who are suffering, so they will continue to be disenfranchised. It's just that because so many people today are just born into that, like, disenfranchised state, that they don't know what's better, what they're entitled to as a citizen, what the social contract is. And this responsibility is on anybody who wants a better Liberia to try to help and teach our people. I will keep saying it. It's too important for the people to know their rights, for them to know what their obligation as a citizen, what it is to be a responsible citizen, the same token, what it is for government to fulfill its obligations in the social contract to them. They give government the right to negotiate concessions, to collect taxes, to impose, excise duties, tariffs, whatever. But these lawmakers don't protect our people. And so they have to make those decisions that don't want these people. But you raised a point earlier where you talk about so many issues. If we just want to look at what's wrong with Liberia, we can just make it into a small piece and just look at the sanctions. When you read the sanctions for somebody like McGill, okay, criminal McGill, and you understand what he has done. McGill has bribed business owners, received bribe from potential investors, accepted kickbacks for steering contracts to companies in which he has an interest. East International comes to mind immediately, and there are other companies out there that he had this kind of relationship with. McGill manipulated public procurement processes in order to award multi-million-dollar contracts to companies in which he has ownership, including by abusing emergency procurement processes to recontract bids. McGill is credibly accused of involvement in a wide range of other corrupt schemes, including soliciting bribes from government office seekers. So no professional people who pay for jobs are the people who get jobs. And misappropriating government assets for his personal gain. He used government funds allocated to other Liberian government institutions to run his own projects. So just imagine the Minister of State or the president must send the money here, must send the money here. Liberian put money up, play with that monopoly money. So that level of corruption, McGill was even taking pay from different ministries that he was not working at, right? McGill received an unjustified stipend from various Liberian government institutions, used his position to prevent his misappropriation from being discovered. He regularly distributed thousands of dollars in undocumented cash to other government officials. and for non-government activities. So that's just a microcosm of corruption, of a bad procurement system. We've been talking about on the coming side with the policy team, finding a technology solution to procurement. And I heard the government of Liberia just put out a bid. Somebody was supposed to send me that bid. They did in October. I don't know what the status is, but somebody is supposed to send it to me. Then look at Serena Seaford. So McGill is in the executive. He has done all this. Serena Seaford is in the legal. He's in the rule of law, in governing the country the right way, working with the judiciary. But what does he do? Develop close relationship with suspects of criminal investigation. He received bribes from the individual for cases to be dropped. He worked behind the scene to establish arrangement with subjects of money laundering investigation for the investigation to cease. When Ellen Cochran came to Liberia, what she said, and she and Serena Seaford were going to witchcraft people, and he was helping manipulate her case and everything. So he messed up the entire court system. Look at what he did with the Cummings case. You think Mr. Cummings needed to spend 6 months behind a bogus case? No, he did not. Where did they find merit in that case? It was evident. There was no changing, no forging, no fingering, nothing. But he kept that case going. I hope he can get a job teaching some elementary school somewhere because he's tinted. No? So you come down to the next level, Bill 12. Okay? This is a public corporation, National Port Authority, an authority for the nation of revenue generating, the entry, the gateway to our country, second to Roberts International Airport. All products and everything comes through there. What did he do? Orchestrated diversion of 1.3 million investor storage fees funds from the NPA into a private account, from a private company to dredge, for another company to offload and unload cargo at the port of Buchanan. Less than a month after a company formed, you gave them that kind of responsibility for a whole port. So these folks just exemplify the level of corruption that in government. So now it brings the distinction between them and Alexander Cummings. Alexander Cummings has a vision, like the first thing. Among those leaders, none of them can articulate a vision like Mr. Alexander Cummings has done about a 21st century Liberia, a Liberia in which he focuses on elevating our human capacity, on creating opportunities for people, on focusing on those bread and butter issues that can make a difference, on giving the people a living wage. They got something in the US called living wage. Okay? If you are paid below that estimate of your monthly cost, by the middle of the month, you're out. So this is what Mr. Cummings is bringing to the table. The vision for a modernized Liberia, a vision that economically moves people from the very, not even poverty level, extreme poverty. So many of people in extreme poverty. That's his vision. Improving education, focusing on agriculture, improving the healthcare and expanding it to more Liberians to be able to receive healthcare. Our infrastructure, our basic and necessary infrastructure is what he will focus on. He will not build all the roads, but in his mind, there should be no reason why people should take days from here down to the southeast that you mentioned. Those people should have the opportunity for economic vitality to be able to improve their lives. So if they don't have that, access is limited. Technology can change our lives. Our people are smart people who can provide business process services to people all across the world. And there are Liberians in positions in different places that can cause those companies to seek whether that cybersecurity services, whether that customer service, whether that training. Liberians are qualified who already can speak the language. Most of the things are script driven. And if you share those scripts with these people, they are able to do it. Yeah, minimum wage is not livable wage. Fact. So that's why he want to pay people a living wage, see? So that's where Mr. Cummings comes from. And then one of the key things he believes in terms of how to do these things is to engage the hearts and minds of our people. You got to empower our people to think that the way we're living today is not how we're supposed to live. We deserve something better. That's why he keeps saying Liberians deserve better. Our resources are not being utilized for our people. Today, the bombing thing you were talking about, Fangon, who is from bombing, he's a horse, but the last horse before you climb up to the mines. Bye, sweetheart. That the last house before you climb up to the mine. So he used to see traffic. But like we used to, I lived in Yekipa for a couple of years and then I was on Karaha. People used to say all the time, there were more than iron ore coming out of our mines. But how was government monitoring that? When people were taking bribes from back in the day and they're doing it today. There are other minerals coming out of Liberia. I don't know if you watched that video from this girl in Malens from Sierra Leone. She talked about how Sierra Leone is so rich. We're not far behind in terms of mineral wealth, but what is the accountability for what's coming out of our ground? All the gold that Orioles money and other people taking out of here, is it really passing through our system? Are we getting the right amount of compensation for it? When do we ever get anything on value addition in our country? So those are the kind of things that Mr. Cummings is focused on, making a difference for Liberians and taking us to the next level. The level of respectability he has internationally as a professional, as somebody who can come to the table and talk to any other official from any government in any area. And he's a man who knows his own limitation. Mr. Cummings will have the technical people there when it's a technical discussion. When it's a general business discussion, general economic discussion, he is competent to have those discussions. So that's the difference. That what separates him from these other candidates. And we who support Mr. Cummings, people who are on the ground should be able to articulate these differences, should be able to articulate his vision and convince people. Because I have confidence in Mr. Cummings. If I put Mr. Cummings before any group of people to talk about his platform, to talk about his vision for Liberia, to talk about his intention, to talk about his capabilities to implement those things. And some of you will hear that message in the next couple of days when he comes out with his New Year message. You know, so it's just clear to me who has the best potential to move our country forward. People may have some sentimental stuff, they may have some emotional stuff, they may have some tribal connections, some ethnic connections. At the end of the day, today where Liberia is, we need a qualified Liberian to move our country forward, and there's no other one who is in the race today than Mr. Cummings. There are other Liberians out there who are better than Mr. Cummings. We shouldn't get it twisted. There are many other qualified Liberians out there, but they are not in the arena today as competitors or candidates for the vice president. And they should be thinking about supporting in my mind. But not everybody will come and galvanize around Mr. Cummings. But those of us who can mobilize, we need to come together. We need to work as hard as we can, tirelessly, to convince the Liberian people, to show them the different options and what the best option is. We can't force them to vote. We can't force them to say your life is bad today, but we can show them the difference, what it's supposed to be and what it currently is for them. And if they got any little bit of rationality around their mindset, they will pick the right choice. So for me, it's Mr. Cummings, and that's why it's Mr.
Cummings. Thank you both so very kindly, and thanks to our audience for following us on the 31st day of December 2022 under the topic Liberia End of a Year Review, a look at politics, corruption, good governance, economy, etc. It was good talking to Ava TUKPAH and MULBAH KESSELLY. Finally, I'd like to say thanks to our audience for keeping up with us up to this time, 2 hours, 28 minutes, almost 30 minutes. What really moved me finally to close on this note is that Mr. Cummings had changed the dynamics of our traditional politics just on 30 seconds. Out of the time we've gone to elections, those opposition who do not win, they will go on the ground. They will never be known. They will never interact with the people. They will not go to the people to tell them thank you for the decision they took. And he had done all of that. He had resided in Liberia all through and continued to impact the life of the people. That was action that he had done. And I'd like to say, if the Christmas will be good, it will not be good how we have said nothing to us. He didn't go to any debate, gave no policy statement, and we Liberians were blackmail ourselves into believing that President Weah law for the country in your heart was so important. Then he uttering to us that indeed he was prepared to lead. And so Mr. Cummings is currently doing it. Please challenge him. He's open. He's ready to take your question at any given time so that you can know the person that you need to trust and rely on. And that's why he will always say he's making his case with the Liberian people. Thank you so very kindly. And the music that will play here, we don't own copyright to it. Just so Facebook and people following can know, and they can take it from the side of TUKPAH.
You turn music on?
Oh, you are playing music from the beginning. You are playing music from the beginning.
Oh, my one music I let it play. Oh, they lie. So let me.
But how do you play? Who music now?
Eh?
How do you play?
My people, where you at? Where you at? Wake up from your slumber, stop sleeping. Whip your hands, whip your hands, whip your hands, whip your. Come on, come on, come on. I know you're sleeping now. Y'all gotta wake up some more, yeah? Okay, let's go. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. So much. I said they lie. The people fool us, the people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not go. I said we tired with their lies. We tired with their promises that led us to a lot of damages. We tired with their speech they preach indeed, and now unique they deceive us. The thing we saw, it frustrates us. So why did you lie? Why did you steal? Why did you allow the citizens to be? You see, we just tell you that why we voted you. But you fool us, you screw us, you use us and later on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not corrupt. No one to trust. My people don't want to hope on. Nobody. My hope that I have been broken. I'm telling you, brother. So where are the schools? Where are the roads? Where are the jobs that they say they could afford? But they're too selfish. The people tired with their rhetoric. People tired, they tired. You see the reason why we ask why the government betray. They have enough of time, but yeah, then stay they delay. People suffer. No work for people crying for hunger. Look at. Your vision and your mission, your intention to the nation, they poor. You got nothing to show. Nothing. So, why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. They lie. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us, the people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not corrupt. With their promises that led us to a lot of damages. We tired with that speech they preach indeed, and now unique they deceive us. The thing we saw, it frustrate us. So why can't you lie? Why can't you steal? Why can't you allow the citizens to be? You see, we just tell you that why we vote tell you. But you fool us, you screw us, you use us and little on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask.